the group. Per raccontiare. Okay, so it's 5 past 10 to me. 45 minutes, so 10 to 11. Please, on time. I'll meet you here. Okay, exactly this place. Over there, once you cross the columns, you are in the Vatican, and that's St. Peter's Square.
Papi,
To the left,
Papi.
you have the Basilica. Always watch, if the line is too long, you don't have enough time to enter and come back. But you can simply enter the Vatican by crossing the columns, doing some pictures, walking down to the Via della Conciliazione, which is a long avenue in front of the square. Where you see Vatican souvenir shop, Savelli, that's the souvenir shop inside which you can find dresses. And you can also find
Michael, vamos a hacer cola para entrar a la iglesia. ¿De dónde es donde sale el Papa? Sí, creo que es una por ahí. Vamos a la iglesia, Michael. Baby, yo voy a ir a la iglesia, a ver.
Usted no va a ir a ningún lado. Usted no viene solo, no puede ir a ningún lado. Nada que yo voy a ir a la iglesia.
Esa es la iglesia que
Tendría que haber ido a la iglesia, pero miren la colonia que hay.
¿Dónde está la cola?
Definitivamente vale la pena entrar ahí.
¿Dónde es donde sale el Papa, baby?
en el medio, ¿no ves?
No, ese otro edificio, Michael. No, ese otro edificio que está hasta allá. I don't think so.
Dad, I've seen it on TV so many times. It's stuck
No.
in my mind.
Sí, ese.
No, porque el otro tiene una plaza.
Esta es la Plaza Douglas.
No. La señora dijo que no.
Since you've been here so many
Douglas,
times,
usted,
you know
usted se
about
hace
that.
con ese.
It's that building. I know that.
Ese que tiene la cruz, ¿quién es, baby? Pedro. Que él mire que tiene la cruz cargando.
Pica la espalda. Ay, pues. Ay, qué rico.
Una foto en la...
Ok. Una, dos, number.
Muchis, miren.
Vamos caminando para allá.
Michael.
Hay una Joana también.
You wanna want one? I'm not hungry. I'm thirsty. Just ask for it. Give me a water bottle.
Lei mi ha detto che mi fermava
Walking.
I get it. That's why they built the church on top of this funeral.
I don't get it. Can you hear me now down at the back? Okay. So different levels of the town according to the centuries in which the buildings were built. Now we are going to cross the river and go on the other side. The sycamore trees are the typical vegetation of Rome along the river, and they were built after they were put here along the river after the unification of Italy, 1961. This is one of the 14 bridges that cross the river. The river once was navigable. It was also called the Blonde River. Nowadays it's not blonde any longer. Unfortunately, it's pretty brown and filthy, but the Romans still love it very, very much. We have a nice ferry that sails along the Tiber, so it's also a different perspective to visit the city of Rome, to see the city of Rome. It's gonna stop nearby the main monuments, and it's also very, very cheap, as you spend only €1 to sail along the river. So it's a mausoleum for himself and his family. Then in the 13th century, that mausoleum became a fortress, and the upper part was added. Became a fortress for the safety of the popes, that in case of danger could easily escape from the Vatican through that overhead corridor that you see on the left and reach the fortress. If you see, the lower part of the castle is different from the upper part. The lower part dates back to the 2nd century AD, whereas the upper part to the 13th century. The bridge here is a St. Angel Bridge with statues they all have the colors that remind us the color of the earth. So you can see they have light orange, light pink, light brown. And those date back to the Renaissance time, to the 16th century and to the 17th century. Very narrow streets, different level of the town. We don't have skyscrapers here in Rome. in Italian. It was once an ancient Roman stadium. Nowadays it's famous because it's a beautiful square, and in the center it has the smaller fountains on both sides of the square. And it's part of downtown Rome, of the city center of Rome, which is only reachable on foot. So it's not possible to pass by Navona Square and have a quick look to it, because it's all surrounded, as you can see, by buildings, by palaces.
Really nice church. There's all the trees are walking.
It really sounds strange, all this traffic on a Tuesday morning. Normally the busy day is Wednesday and Friday, because everybody leaves for the weekend, but very unusual on a Tuesday morning. And there is such a traffic when it rains. Everybody takes his car and moves all around Rome. And as Rome is full of departments, so right inside the Spanish flag outside of the Spanish embassy. Spanish Steps are another famous highlight of Rome, called Spanish because of the embassy to the Vatican over there. There is in the center of the square a fountain designed by Bernini, by the father of architect Bernini, called the La Barcaccia, which is of the Italian Navy. It's a huge building dating back to the 18th century. As you see there, it's richly decorated on the walls. It's only one of the... A couple of years ago, to have a pizza and a beer, for example, you could have spent something like 10,000 liras. Two twin churches, inside one of those churches, paintings by Caravaggio. So this is the gate that you can see here, Porta Flaminia, Flaminia Gate, the obelisk, the two twin churches right behind the square. And from here it departs the bridges on the other side, Venice Square, that we are going to see in 15 minutes time approximately. The walls that nowadays 90% of these 11 miles still stand. They are in a very good shape, as you can see. All along the walls the Romans built also 400 watchtowers. The gates, the 14 gates, were built according to the 14 consular streets that used to link Rome. And now we are driving through the Borghese Garden, the biggest public park of Rome. It's a place in which the Romans like to come on Sunday with their families, take their children here. It's a huge park. It has a zoo inside, a big lake, an hippodrome, and a big museum. This garden was once property of the Borghese family, which was a very rich and noble family of Rome. That they decided to sell part of their property to the Italian state, so the garden became a public park. They were also rich collectors of art, and they decided to sell part of their collection to the city of Rome. Their collection of art nowadays is a wonderful museum, the Borghese Gallery, in which you can admire many works of art by Bernini. So in this park there are a lot of plants, trees and flowers that come really from all over the world.
The Borghese Gallery is on our right hand side. Right behind the trees is that white monument with two towers on both sides. In order to visit the Borghese Gallery, you need to reserve a lot in advance. And now we will have the walls again, same walls as we saw before. Ahead of us, the Aurelian walls. We are going to see another gate, the Pinciana gate, which is smaller than the Flaminia gate. So let's say that outside the city walls, once there was just countryside. So we are now just about to enter the ancient Roman city. And as you can see, those walls are still in a very good shape. The city of Rome. Bernini did really a lot of things here in Rome. And we are very close to another famous fountain that unfortunately we cannot see from here because it's part of the pedestrian area, so the only way to go there is to go on foot, is the Trevi fountain. Do you remember that movie trick? They didn't have enough money to clean all the monuments of Rome. We are reaching the Republic Square. Ahead of us, Piazza. And there you are, you have the Vittoriano on the left side with the bronze that was drained by the Etruscans. So this was the Roman Forum, the center, Julius Caesar. We are going to see the statue of Emperor of Caesar with the four initials down below, the four famous initials, SPQR. What does SPQR? And coming on the right, we have the Basilica. Show you some of the columns of one of the biggest and tallest temple built in town at that time. The temple dedicated to Venus and Rome, here on the right hand side, that used to face the Colosseum. There was a huge Colosseum, so the Romans knew exactly where to enter. It had a capacity of 50,000 people sitting on beautiful marble seats, 3 different floors according to their special staff. You see the lines to enter the Colosseum. Here there is a charge for that, is €8.50. At that time instead was free of charge. It was built in the year 72 and it was inaugurated in the year 80. Which means that to complete the entire structures, it took them only 8 years. Of course, they had a lot of slaves working at the Colosseum. It was built using a marble coming from a quarry, not far from Rome, only 20 kilometers far from Rome. Travertino marble, that's the name of this marble. And now, as you can see, the outer ring of the Colosseum is missing, as the Colosseum anyway has gone through earthquakes, through destruction, invasion, through the centuries, but it still stands. Inside, what you can admire are only a few of the beautiful marble seats, and then the tunnels in which the wild beasts and the gladiators also were kept. To cover those tunnels there was a wooden floor, and to cover the wooden floor there was sand. Sand used to absorb the blood of the gladiators. The Latin name for sand is arena. That's why this place was also called the arena. So now we are going to drive back to the Colosseum anyway. It had a capacity of 250,000 people sitting all around. That's why it was called the Circus Maximus. So that's only the shape of it, because everything is still underneath, unfortunately 30 meters down below. What we have top of the Palatine Hill are the remains of the ancient, beautiful and elegant residence of the emperors, huge residence inside the palaces. Right behind them there was a hippodrome, imagine fountains, statues. So they used to watch the races from the window of their palaces. So from the name of the hill, Palatino, Palatine, is derived the word palace, palatium through the centuries. One of the most famous hills of Rome, the Palatine, which was really close to the river Tiber. So only a little part of the ancient Circus Maximus were excavated, and you can see them on the left. Gym, sauna, master room, libraries, two kinds of libraries, one in Greek and one in Latin, as they were bilingual at the time. So do you remember in 1990 that beautiful concert held by the three tenors Pavarotti, Domingo and Carreras? That concert was held inside the Caracal. So we are leaving the archaeological area, we are driving top of the Aventine Hill, very elegant and rich area, that once instead was inhabited by very poor people. Now we will drive. And we're going to see also a very unusual monument for being in Europe. We're going to see a pyramid. It's the only pyramid that you can see in Europe. Is not as big as the one that you have in Egypt. It was built here by a Consul Caius Cesti, who lived for a long period in Egypt. When he came back to Rome, being a very rich and powerful man, he wanted to have a mausoleum, so a tomb for himself and his family, and he decided to have it in the shape of a pyramid. Right inside where you see the umbrella pine trees and the cypresses, over there we have the English cemetery, in which two famous English poets are buried, Keats and Shelley. Okay, we are now driving in a very popular district, the Ostiense district. The main avenue is the Ostiense way that in this direction takes the Romans straight to the city of Ostia. You can see as soon as we pass by, right behind the columns, you will also see the statue representing St. Paul, always represented with a sword. Inside the basilica there are the portraits of the 264 popes that we have been having so far. Top facade of the basilica, beautiful gilded mosaic, so it's a very preciously and richly decorated basilica. Of Rome, that was what Benito Mussolini wanted to do it during the early 30s. Then nothing happened any longer because of World War II. We have this building here with lots of arches that we call the Square Colosseum. is the building in which we have modern exhibitions, whereas the church ahead of us is the church dedicated to St. Peter's and St. Paul, which are the two patron saints of the city of Rome. So the EUR is a very elegant district, very green. As you can see, there are a lot of sports clubs, a lot of shops, a lot of nice apartments. It's very expensive to live here, even if we are on the outskirts of Rome.
Del plan. Esa playa se mira poderosa.
Puede ir uno a esa playa. Podríamos ir a esa playa.
Caminando y aquí para allá.